Why is the EAP never going to be added to War Thunder? Let's talk a little bit about it. Hello guys, once again it's Matt. Thank you all the members and patrons. Make sure to subscribe. And a lot of talks have been happening from, I don't know, years now about the British Aerospace EAP, the Experimental Aircraft Program. An aircraft that is strikingly similar to the Eurofighter Typhoon, right? And a lot of people ask Gaijin, why are we not having this aircraft since we're not ready for the Eurofighter, and why isn't it added in the game? Why was the Gripen added instead of the EAP? So let's talk a little bit about on the reasons why. Before we get to that, obviously we need to talk about what is the British Aerospace EAP, and just remember you guys, I'm going to continue my campaign a little bit over here until everybody that is Brazilian hear this. But if you are Brazilian, if you speak Portuguese, link in the description. We have a Portuguese channel now. Go check it out, okay? But what exactly is the British Aerospace EAP and why is it not coming? Well, the first thing is that this aircraft is a technology demonstrator, okay? You have to remember this wording. Why? Because normally it's called also a demonstrator model, but in simpler terms, it is a prototype or an incomplete version of an aircraft to test technology, to demonstrate technology, right? So this is very, very cool. This is a very cool aircraft. It never got produced, obviously, in large numbers, only one produced, and it is basically what people thought in the 80s what a 4.5 generation or even 5th generation would look like in the future, basically, right? It's an aircraft that brings every single of the top dogs of technology from the 80s to an aircraft to test it out, to see what it works, to see what doesn't work, and to introduce in the future for other aircraft. It was basically a lot of the technology used in this aircraft to produce this thing was actually developed into the Eurofighter Typhoon. Doesn't mean that this is a prototype of the Eurofighter like some people believe. It's not. It's a different design. But a lot of the technologies developed for this technology demonstrator were used in the Typhoon. And some people even claim, like the British House of Commons Accounts Committee, claims that or credit the EAP of reducing the development of the Eurofighter by more than a year and save more than 850 million pounds on development on that aircraft, on the Eurofighter, right? So it served its purpose, but it was never meant to be an aircraft that was going to see the light of day as a fighter. It's a proper fighter, even though there are pictures with it, with missiles and other things. It was always meant to be just demonstrating some technology that the British had to actually introduce into other aircraft. I mean, it was the 80s, guys, and he already used a carbon fiber reinforced polymer. These are very hard words for me to say. Composites. It's very, very cutting edge technology, right? Aluminum, lithium alloys, cathode ray tube displays, the early, multifunction displays, a HUD that was very modern. They used the Turbo Union RB199, which is the engine of the Tornado, of course. Even had some testings done to it to actually have, voice command systems and other interesting systems like that. But the main thing is that this aircraft really introduced it to a fighter, something that was not possible before, an aerodynamically unstable performance of the aircraft, which means that any touch of the stick would mean that the aircraft would just fumble around and maybe even destroy itself. It would be just too unstable. Instability is amazing for turning, for dogfighting, for anything, but you have to have some stability. If not, the aircraft cannot fly. It shouldn't be. It's like a sensitivity on your mouse. If it's too much, you're gonna not do anything. But if it's too little, you're not gonna do anything also. So it's a balance depending on the aircraft that you are building, right? And this was aerodynamically unstable due to the objective of being highly maneuver. But how did it actually fly without losing the control and stuff? Well, included a full authority digital fly-by-wire control. It was something very new to the time and a very modern system for the time. This computer would actually have the processing power to maintain the aircraft in the position that it needs to be flying, like if it's flying always in an autopilot, but the pilot is controlling that autopilot with the stick. That's kind of what it is. The autopilot maintaining it stable enough for the pilot to actually do the maneuvers that he needs to do, right? So many cutting edge technologies that were used in the Eurofighter. But why isn't this aircraft going to be added ever? Like Smin said, this aircraft is, and I said before, this aircraft is a technology demonstrator, guys. It's not an aircraft that was ever meant to actually use missiles. Again, they did have some interesting things on it, like missiles that are not missiles, just stuff that it's not real, for them to actually have some pictures out of it and some movie and little films and stuff to actually get investment or to show the aircraft, stuff like that. But the aircraft never had a radar. The aircraft never properly had weapon systems. It was just a very civilian, if you will, prototype to test technology in flight performance, to actually introduce it in the Eurofighter. So it was never meant to have missiles. It was never meant to have a cannon, any type of weapon, countermeasures, radars, anything like that. And that's why it's never going to be added. But you can ask me, and a lot of people did ask Smin and other community managers, what about the EAP 141? Isn't that thing a technology demonstrator? Well, technically no. The EAP 141 passed already when the Soviet Union collapsed the trials for the state, and it was already accepted into production, if you will, in a bureaucratic way. The aircraft was already ready to be started, to be produced. The thing is that the Soviet Union collapsed, they abandoned the project, and of course the EAP 141 basically became a technology demonstrator afterwards. So it's kind of a different line of thinking. It is a little bit, but it is pushing a little bit when we have F-16 AJs and other things in the game that are a little bit paperish. So yeah, if they really wanted, they could add this technology demonstrator with missiles and stuff and make it work. Of course they would, but it would be kind of what they want to avoid it. You can draw two conclusions for this. First of all, do you really want the EAP? If you want properly, you want the Eurofighter? Probably not, right? You want the Eurofighter, so let's get the Eurofighter, not the EAP. And the second thing is that although a bad thing for the British, it might be a bad thing or a good thing for everybody. Because if you think about it, the Su-47 will probably never be added. It would be something that would be hard to actually master in the code of the way that everything is in the game, to make it work and stuff. So that could be OP. So it's probably never gonna come because it is technically a technology demonstrator as well. The MiG-144, although an aircraft that was being developed to be the first fifth generation of the Soviet Union, it never saw produce full service. And the aircraft that was produced, it was basically just a very modified version of what it would look like in the full service of that aircraft as well. So it's kind of a good thing, because then nobody can have these weird prototypes that never had even a cannon or anything, right? And we can have the full aircraft first, at least, and then push it a little bit after we have the full service aircraft in the game for some prototypes here and there and stuff like that. And to be honest, instead of having the EAP, the Gripen is a great option that we have right now in the game for the British, and the Eurofighter will come for 3 nations and be a much better option for the British as well, right? So it just makes more sense to not have the EAP. But yeah, these are the reasons. This is what the EAP is, and the reasons why the EAP will probably never be added to War Thunder. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe, and I see you guys on the next one. Bye guys, see you.